All right, Joseph.
Yes, sir.
Marriage is hard.
Yes, it can be.
So I didn't say that well enough. Marriage is really damn hard. And and God wants me to do this thing and says, do this and then be fruitful and multiply. But it's a shitstorm up in here and I can't handle it anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. Got kids running around and a wife that's just like, you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Like, damn, man. Anyway, why does God want me to... Like, geez.
Okay.
Can I just have some peace and quiet? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The only time I get some privacy is when I take a shit in the bathroom and doing my mobile games and stuff. It's crazy. Crossword puzzles. Soccer practice and therapy, and it's crazy. It just
okay.
Anyway, was that good?
Yeah, that was good. So why is it worth it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Why would God put
If I was single, I could just be out there, sowing seed instead of tied down to one of them. You know what I'm saying?
To one of them.
Just same thing over and over.
Right.
Missionary every time. You know what I'm saying? Marriage sucks. So.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is why Frank blew his brains out. This is fucking...
I shouldn't laugh at that at all. Okay.
Anyway.
All right.
What do you got for me?
Boy, that's a lot to unpack right there. Holy cow. All right. I'm just going to go back to the basic premise of why is marriage so difficult.
Okay.
That's what you asked.
Yeah.
And then you put a whole lot of descriptives in there to explain what this looks like.
I would like you to respond to that mindset, please.
All right. Well, wow. Okay. Man, you're not wrong. Okay. Like, marriage is hard.
Thank you.
But I'm not saying that you're right in all of the things that you brought up.
Okay.
But just in the general premise, marriage is difficult, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Or can be difficult, has seasons of being difficult.
Yeah.
And I think the level or the degree of that difficulty changes.
Okay.
Of how difficult it feels or how great it is, or I think the degrees of that change throughout the course of time. Again, my wife and I have been married for 22 years, so it's not like a really long period of time, but it's not a short time either. And it's kind of wild to me. We've ran into, especially younger people that we've talked to, and like they have never met anyone that's been married for 22 years. Like that just blows their mind that we've been married that long.
Okay.
And so for some, it seems like a long time. For others, it's like, man, 22 years, y'all are just getting started,
Right.
Because, my wife and I over here, we've been married for 60 years or whatever it may be. And so I think that's there are degrees in how difficult things are over these seasons of time. And I think at the root of it, okay, is sin. And what I mean by that is that we as individuals are broken individuals. We're sinful individuals. And there has been an issue all the way from point one, right? And I know you kind of go crazy with me when every time I go back, take everything back to Genesis and Adam and Eve and the fall and everything. But, the reality is, when it talks about that this is the reason that a husband shall leave his father and mother and be married to, this one woman and she will be his wife. And then it goes on to say at the very end of Genesis chapter 2 that they are naked and unashamed. And so they're completely, there's a complete intimacy level there where they know each other and they're intimate with each other spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. And there's nothing hidden and there's no sin in their lives. There's nothing broken inside of them. So actually they're whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the fall happens, and immediately they look at each other and they feel ashamed. So they went from no shame to shame.
Of themselves or each other?
Of being naked in front of the other.
Oh.
Okay? And so
they were married.
I know. But that's what I'm saying. But also now this is the mindset of, oh no, I'm fully known by the other person and now I have shame, right? So I go and hide. And they not only hide from themselves, they're also hiding from God because of what they did, right? Because sin produces shame. It always does. And so that's probably what I'm getting to. The root of all of it is sin, is our brokenness, is our shame, is the fact that we're not whole. And so you take two individuals and you put them together and you say, be together for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, they're broken people. And by broken, I don't necessarily mean there has to be anything horribly awry or off the rails with them. But the reality is they're not whole. They're not always loving. They're not always kind. They're not always patient. They're not always gentle, right? They're not always slow to anger. They're not always, quick to listen and slow to speak. So they don't always choose mercy over judgment, right? Like they're broken individuals.
You're right about that.
Yep. And we're selfish. We want our ways, the things we like, and so you take those individuals and put them together and go, hey, go live with each other. And then guess what? You're going to have children and they too are going to be broken and selfish and not always loving and not putting the other one first and demanding for attention. And then you're going to have to help raise them and all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, like it's a lot is what I'm getting to. And I think that's the issue behind it all. Like that, the sin, the brokenness is the issue. And because no two individuals see everything the same way. So as soon as, you get a married couple and they see things differently from one another, also now we're in conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And then generally speaking, most people are terrible at handling conflict. So we don't handle conflict well. We don't say this is what I think and this is what I want and this is how I feel. And we don't say those things very well. And then if another one tries to say it to us, then we get defensive and all that kind of stuff. And so even if we say it, we don't receive it well. And so it's just, it's you put all that together and that's really difficult. And so the question is, then why in the world would God say,
yeah,
all right, you two get together.
Yeah. Forever.
And
deal with each other's crap the whole time.
Right. And then you've heard me say this phrase before, right? And I didn't create this phrase by any means. It's a pretty popular phrase out there that marriage is not for our happiness, it's for our holiness.
Okay.
And so in Ephesians 5, Paul writes about marriage and goes on and on and on about marriage. And he goes, and then at the end of it, he says, and this mystery is great, referring to man and woman being together and being one flesh and being, husband and wife together. And he says, but I'm speaking with reference to Christ and the church. And his point being is, I'm creating this picture of Christ and his church. Okay?
Yep.
And so marriage then is this way in which we are actually supposed to be representing Christ and his church. And he goes on to say, all right, so husbands, be like Jesus. Okay?
Okay.
And this is the hard part, because then he's telling the husbands, you've got to go be like Christ. So he goes on to say,
I am the Son of God.
Yeah, well, this is what the Son of God did, right? So what he goes on to say, verse 25.
Was that not like Christ?
No. So husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. And that's the first thing. It's like, okay, so go die to yourself, right? You're choosing her over yourself, husband. Okay?
What does die to yourself mean?
That means to deny yourself, deny your flesh, put the other one before yourself.
Okay.
Put the other one's best interest above your own, right?
Okay.
And so now I've got to become selfless. And then he goes, so
that's a weird way to put that.
Yeah.
Die to yourself?
Yeah, but
it just sounds like suicide.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hear that phrase like, because Christ died for us, right? So we die to self, or the way Christ phrases it when he calls his disciples, deny yourself and follow me, right?
Okay.
And so then maybe that is a little easier to take in. Okay, I'm going to deny my selfish wants, deny what I want, and put the other one's interest above my own.
So us, the church, are Jesus's nagging wife.
Yeah, we're
we're constantly asking for stuff.
Well, I don't think we're always the nagging wife, but we are a bride.
We pray.
We do pray, and
ask for winning lottery tickets.
Well, maybe you do, but but yeah, I mean, yeah. So sure, we are individuals that are relating to Christ in this way.
Okay,
but he goes on to say, all right, and he says, so that Christ gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. And so, in other words, what we're doing we are choosing to love our wives as Christ himself loves the church. And then we're called to, and this is so that the other, our wife, will become more and more like Christ. And I think in that way, so do we. When we choose to deny self, when we choose to put the other one before our own, we also are becoming like Christ. So it's actually a transformative work. It's not just an action taken. It's a transformative work in our own lives. And so having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. So how then do we speak to one another? What is our words like to one another? Are they, to use another, scriptural phrase, is it seasoned with salt? Is it life-giving, or is it something else? And that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless. And then he goes on to say, so husbands ought also to love their own wives as their own bodies. For he who loves his own wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church. And so we are to nourish and cherish our wives and care for them and love them and protect them and provide for them and all those things, right? And my whole point being is all of these things are so contrary to the natural fleshly desires in us.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Everyone sucks at this.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Yeah, and so this is part of it, right? This is part of the humility part where we're continually asking the Lord to help us and transform us to be able to love our wives as we should. To be able to care for I'll make it broader now with husbands and wives, to care for the spouse in the way that we should, to care for the other in the way that we should, to put their interest above our own, like that both of us are wanting to be like Jesus to the other. And so I think this is why marriage is not for our happiness, it's for our holiness. But in the midst of us becoming more and more like this, I do actually think we find greater joy and greater happiness in this together.
So you think it's better than being single and forever?
I do.
Why? But you haven't been single forever. So
no, I've not. I've not. And I mean, I got married, and we were. Well, I was 20. How old was I? 24. I was 24, just about turned 25.
Okay.
And so for me, you're right. So I was fairly young, 24, about to be 25. But man, I will say this, and maybe this is cheesy or whatever. Like, I genuinely love coming home. I can't wait to get home.
Okay.
I love coming home to my wife, to my kids. Love coming home,
even if they're all pissed and sick and yeah, well, you did something you weren't supposed to while you were out, and you're going to get an earful and all that.
Yeah, I guess I haven't had the whole getting an earful in a while. But I'm doing all right with that, I guess. So, but I know, and I do remember a time where I was just like working like crazy, and I will say that, like, so coming home to like a house where I knew I had like young kids that were going to immediately want my attention, right? And immediately I had to start caring and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like there's a grocery store on the way home from work to the house, and it was just right outside of our neighborhood. And I would actually pull into the parking lot and just like stop,
chill
there for like 5 to 10 minutes to just breathe and just be like, okay,
just eat a burger.
Well, usually I was going home for dinner, so I didn't have to eat anything. But I would just like just breathe, just have a moment, and then go home. Because, I mean, I did know what I was going into, right?
Open the glove box where the gun is and look at it for a couple seconds.
No.
And then close it back up.
No, never did that. But, I mean, I knew, like, and you know, like, I remember my oldest, I mean, as soon as I got home, man, he was wanting my full attention, right? And wanted to run around, be active, you know. So I remember just making circles, running around the kitchen while, you know, in the house while, you know, my wife's making dinner, or we're going outside and playing baseball or throwing the football. Like, it was just like he was just go, constant and wanted all my attention. And then you add kids, you know, then we had the other kids come along, and now all of a sudden you got more and more kids, and, you know, it's like walking through the door and like, here's a baby. Can you hold the baby? You know, because I've been holding the baby all day. So now it's your turn. And so, I mean, and those are I'm not going to lie, like, those are like that.
Whose baby is this?
Got another one?
Why do you have this? What?
We agreed, no more. So, you know, but I think that those, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was a more challenging season for me than the present season we're in terms of like coming home and what it was going to require of me, you know? And so now it's a different season, and not that it doesn't require things, but it's not that.
Because now you can tell them to shut up and go away, and it doesn't hurt their feelings as much.
I don't,
right?
No, I'm not telling them to shut up and go away. And so I don't
kick them off the couch, and it doesn't hurt as much.
Of my face, you know. I just
He's done that before.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Like, but all of this actually is for our transformative growth, and within marriage in particular, like my wife and I, like, we just genuinely love. And I will say it's like we love being together. We love laughing together. We love watching. We always watch like either The Office or Parks and Rec or Psych at night before going to bed. Like, that's kind of our wind down. Like, we just like to watch comedy stuff. And so it's just like we just enjoy being together. We go out on dates once a month, you know, that kind of thing. Like, we really like being together. And so, you know, but I can remember earlier in our marriage, and we liked being together then too, but we also fought more at that point because we didn't know how to communicate near as well as we do now. Like, back then we just wouldn't communicate until someone kind of, you know, till she'd get mad at me or I'd go sulk off or whatever, you know, like we just didn't communicate very well, where now we communicate a whole lot better. So we don't have those kind of episodes, you know, as much. And that's kind of part of that growth, right? Like, we are different than we were, you know, in our first year of marriage or our second year of marriage. Now, we've always loved being married. We've always had what I would call a healthy marriage, in the sense of, like, we love being together. We love following Jesus together. But boy, our communication skills sucked for those first few years, you know? And whereas like now, 20 years later, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we know how to handle that situation. And we know how to communicate through that. And we know how to communicate through hurt feelings. We know how to communicate when we feel like we're being neglected by the other.
And you feel like this is possible for every married couple to do?
I 100% do.
Okay.
But you've got to put the work in. And I will say that. Like, this is part, like everything that's described here in Ephesians 5 is intentional. Like, none of this happens without intentionality.
Okay, well, more work sucks. So why would I want to do that?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean,
I know I already did it and I'm stuck in it now, but for other people.
You're stuck in it now. Your poor wife. All right, so anyways, all right. Yeah, I just wow. Yeah, I feel like but I don't know, for me, Nate, like, it's the benefit for me. This is Joseph just talking.
Okay.
The benefit for me personally of being married, having children, all that stuff, so far outweighs singlehood, like being single.
Okay.
Like being single, I enjoy coming home and knowing I've got someone to talk to at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I enjoy planning, you know, vacations and things together. I enjoy thinking about the future with someone together. I enjoy not being alone. Like, I'm not good alone. Like, I like being with people in general. So I love coming home and having, a spouse there. So all of those things to me are a benefit, right? And so, in every aspect from the communication and the emotional healthiness part to the sex to the physical part, like for me, all of those are benefits and are goods that are gained in the context of marriage. And I'm not alone. And it's like what God said to man at the very beginning, right? It's not good for man to be alone. And I think for a lot of us, that is how we are wired. That's how we feel. Now, there are some that are completely content being alone. Okay, cool. Like, I'm not shaming you for that, right? Fine. But I'm just saying most of us are wired to want companionship, to want to be in a relationship. And this is the design that God has set up for us to be able to have that. And so I do think there is a greater reward at the end of the day, when we, whether it's the end of the day literally coming home or whether at the end of the day of the course of our life, when we look back and go, oh, wow, but I got to walk this journey of life with someone. And it wasn't always easy. And I do look more like Jesus now, but I do think I'm more like Christ because of my wife. And not just because of the ways that I deny myself, but because of the way I see her deny herself for the sake of whether it's me or the kids or others, the way I see her choosing to love and put others' best interest above her own. And just the way that she encourages and I mean, she just, she's always believed in me, and I get these, wild hair dreams and ideas, and she's like, all right, what's this going to look like? And,
you're going back to school?
Right. I mean, that was one of them, right?
Again?
Yes. And that was one of them.
But you have a master's. What else is there to, what? Just.
Yeah.
That's your wife.
No, but she's been so encouraging in all of that, right? And just amazing. And then I'll, when we say our wedding vows, and if we were using the traditional wedding vows, and I know you and I and our wives that we all wrote our own vows, right? Mm-hmm. But using the traditional wedding vows of like in sickness and in health, for richer, for poor, right? Having someone in those seasons that you're with, like. Man, there's no replacing that. I could, like, for example, like when I had pancreatitis, I cannot imagine having had pancreatitis for 5 years and being alone.
There's
like
nothing,
that would have been awful. You're right. So, yeah. So, yeah, I just think that all of the, like, and we've been, like we're not just living paycheck to paycheck. Like we're behind on the, like. We in other words, we're already in debt before we get to the next paycheck kind of thing, right?
Right.
Like we've been in that situation.
There's nothing more loving than being poor and dragging someone else down with you.
It's great every single time. Yeah.
That's love.
That's love. Yeah. And so, I joke all the time, with my wife about the fact that, she married me because of how wealthy I was going to be. And she was
going to be?
Yeah. She was like, yeah, you're a pastor. No, I never, I always knew you were going to not be wealthy. And so, this is just,
thanks, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, and even our two professions, like she was a school teacher. I was a pastor, right? Like we didn't, like,
she can't talk.
Like there was not a whole lot of like, oh yeah, look at our financial future, you know, in the sense of like, now it's been like, we're blessed and it's great, but it's not like we're just, standing on stockpiles of money either. So, so I think again, so you look at those vows and like, we're with each other in all those seasons. And I just think most of us are wired to want to have someone with us throughout all of those seasons, you know? And so I do think the benefit is better. I think it's God's design. And I think there's just, and ultimately I do think there's just joy to be had in the context of marriage, even when you have to fight for it, even when you've really hurt the other person and you have to overcome that, and get to the other side of it. And I think that's a huge thing. Experiencing mercy, and Lord knows I've experienced mercy and grace from my wife in ways that still to this day just kind of leave me dumbfounded, because she just went to me over and above with giving mercy, over and above giving grace. And and she doesn't hold those records of wrongs against me, and so I'm so grateful for her. And yes, I'm not sitting up here saying like our marriage is perfect and ideal. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it is healthy. And I'm saying it's healthier now than it was 20 years ago as well, right? Mm. Largely because we've become less selfish and we've learned how to communicate more, right? And all of those things I think are attributed to us being transformed more and more into the likeness of Jesus. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I get where you're coming from at the very beginning. And I also think that as we have two individuals that are following Jesus and really wanting to be together and work through these things, that it really can be, marriage can be an absolute gift in the land of the living, if you were. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I like being married too.
All right.
Because I think I was good at being single for like 95% of the day. And then just blew it right before I went to sleep.
Just crashed out every time.
Every day.
Yeah.
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 That's when it would all kick in.
Yeah.
All the depression and the alcohol and the porn.
All just collide.
All at once.
Yeah. Like, just here we go. Crash and burn.
Wake up and... Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. No.
Cool. Next question. Marriage is fun.